So this is a Zoom recording on April 8th, 2025, on a monthly Zoom program for the Oregon Carvers Guild and the Guild of Oregon Woodworkers. Welcome everybody. You're all muted. If you're not muted, please do if you can. I'll try to monitor any questions that come up from chat, but I think we'll have a small group tonight, so you can probably at some point pause and then you can verbalize the question too. I'm working on a laptop with one screen instead of two, so it's a little hard to see what's happening on the Zoom chat while also controlling the PowerPoint presentation. This is my first time at Oakhurst for the Rendezvous. It's the 16th annual event that they did. They took 2 years off for COVID. And so they've been at it now back, I think this is the third year, or I think it's the third year back after COVID. They're slowly building back up. It was, some of us know Jerry Boone. Jerry is a member of the Guild and the co-founder of the rebirth of the Oregon Carvers Guild. And the Oakhurst Rendezvous for him was a major turning point in his carving career. It really kicked him off. So that kind of stuck in my mind. We do the Salem Club does a rendezvous in Silverton in September. And I've did it twice. And I really, if you haven't been there, pay attention. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You don't have to spend Friday and Saturday and Sunday. You can pick and choose. Most of the operating time is on the first 2 days. But it's a good group of somewhere there, I think maybe 50-ish people and maybe 8 or 10 instructors. And you get a lot of little classes and a great way to meet people in a setting that's away. And you can, for me, I was driving back and forth to Silverton, 45-minute drive, but you can also stay nearby reasonably. So I'm going to do a slideshow. This is, I was risky to know how this was going to work. I didn't know what the technology environment was going to be like. The rendezvous itself is in a small town. It's got a community center. It's a fabulous community center. And they hold it there. You'll see pictures of it. They do have Wi-Fi, and I'm in a hotel because the community center shuts down and it closes it off, and so there's no access to the facility after hours. So I accumulated photographs and some video clips, and I find it absolutely fascinating. So we'll get started. Somebody speak up if this isn't working, if you can't see or hear. So I've got a PowerPoint presentation and we will start it off. So Steve Moore, I can see your face. Can you see that picture of on your screen?
Yeah, yes, I can, Larry.
Okay, so we're all set. They have 145 people showing up over 5 days. The year before they had 105, and the first year after COVID it was 89. I think they were up over 200 once, but they're almost maxing out the facility in terms of being able to hold the event for food and for classes. It's 5 days. Not everybody stays for 5 days. Some of the classes are 5 days. Most people will do 2 or 3 classes. They will get started and finish at home, and it's a great opportunity. It's a really unbelievable bargain, $155 for the 5 days. A breakfast to kick it off, a lunch and a dinner, and they got drawings and raffles. It's right apparently about 45 minutes or so from Yosemite's South Gate. I don't have time to get up there to see it, but it's kind of in the foothills. It would kind of be maybe like Detroit Lake would be to the Cascades in Oregon. They got a lot of business support. The evening dinner is apparently costing $7,000, and one restaurant footing the whole bill, which is quite amazing. This is the first time they had a featured carver, and I'll show you some pictures of this guy named Vic Hood. He was from Franklin, Tennessee, outside of Nashville. And I didn't know him. I don't know him. I chatted with him this time, but he charges, in addition to the event itself, I think it's $400, maybe 450 for a 5-day class. It's really quite an astounding class that he's doing. These are the list of the classes they had. They had 14 classes for carving and then 4 other classes for non-carvers. A lot of the attendees bring their spouses or partners, and so they want to do things too. And I didn't list the other classes, except you'll see some pictures of stepping stones. And I won't show all of these classes in terms of the examples, but you'll see enough of them, particularly the main ones. They have a kickoff dinner. The show starts, the classes start on Monday. So it's Monday through Friday. But everybody shows up Saturday night, and they do a kickoff breakfast that's very generous, Sunday morning between 7 and 9. And then all the instructors line up around this hall that we're looking at. And you get to meet the instructors and sign up. It's first come, first serve. Some of the more popular classes are booked out. But you can't sign up until you show up. And then a few of the classes are struggling to get anybody. The this picture is a dinner setup. This is what the main room is, one of 2 rooms, but this is the main room during the carving itself. So it's cheek to jowl on a lot of these classes. As time goes on, people move around, so it's not altogether full. I'm going to step you through some of these. Al Plash is a member. He's the former president, but a leader in the Ventura, California club. He's also a member of the Oregon Carvers Guild. He's taught spoon carving for us during COVID while he was teaching from his shop in Ventura, and I had some students in my shop, and we had one student in Ohio. So it was a learning experience on how to teach, but he's been doing spoon carving for quite a bit of time. I got some short video clips of just kind of interview questions, which I edited to talk about the spoon carving side of this and a bit about the event itself. This should work. Steve Moore, just nod your head or say something if you can't hear the audio once I start it up. Are there more popular classes here at Oakhurst in general?
I would say that the relief carving, it's amazing. He'll have 20 students sometimes. However much room there is. The women like the stepping stones a lot. And Lola, yeah, Lola does the fawn. She usually does an animal, and she's very good at it. And a lot of people like that class.
That's a power card, really detailed mammal.
It is.
Head,
it is.
Fox head. It was gorgeous.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of Daryl Easter has he always has interesting stuff. I think he's a really good instructor. He's very good and really a master with a knife alone. He uses other tools, but he is a master with a knife.
Do you remember what the relief project is?
That he has many pictures, and you choose what you want to do, and he even has some tools that he loans out. So that's great. So he really wants to help there. So,
is there always a featured carver?
No, first time ever. Well, no, there might have been one years ago. A lady came from back east, but nothing on the this year's featured carver. Vic Hood is a big name, and you've seen it if you see his stuff in the magazines or online. He's a master. He told me he brought 10,000 pounds of tools and wood, and he brings a lot of his things that he's carved, but he said he leaves the really good ones at home because he's going to sell those.
So you have as I understand, a drop-in class.
Yes,
people can come and go when they feel like it.
Right,
and fill in between longer classes.
It would be good if I could have all the beginners at one time, but I just leave it flexible, and I have some. So I have the beginner about 14 blanks for beginners, and I had about 42 blanks, more advanced, some very advanced, some I'm not even sure I can do, but I wanted to try them. This year I made a lot of blanks that I wanted to work on myself, and I have 4 different species of wood. I have beech, which is very good for kitchen, but it's very hard. It's not people's favorite, but some people will take it and do it. I have, of course, basswood, and then I have jellutong. I had a big chunk of jellutong, and I ran out of the basswood board, so I started cutting this up and making blanks out of it. So that'll be interesting how that goes. And then I had some butternut, and I had 6 of those blanks, and they're gone. I sold them all today, so that'll be fun. Hopefully, some of those people come back and we can carve on that because it's a neat. I like the spoon that it is. All my spoons, other than the beach stuff, are love spoons. So they're fancy spoons that you uh, ball in the box, chain on the end, things like that. So
we'll have some pictures. Are they decorative more than functional?
correct, decorative more than functional, definitely.
Okay. And you make them for your grandkids and others. You personalize them for life events?
I've done that once in a row with my great grandson. I made him a spoon with a stork. It was actually one of my more challenging because it had a basket. The stork was holding a basket with a baby in its arm. The baby's head was a 1/4 inch wide, so to get some detail that looked like a head was challenging. And then the basket had a real thin area that was hard, but I got it to work. So, and that was fun, a good challenge. So that was.
Is everything done with the knife?
Pardon?
Is all the carving done with a knife, or do you use a gouge?
I use I do use some gouges, V tools and things. That was most. No, I use some V tools on that, and on the spoon part itself, you can use either a spoon gouge, which is a shaped, curved thing, and that's how I did my first spoons. And then you sand out the ridges. But also I've been using hook knives, and I've probably got a dozen at least different hook knives, maybe more. I keep collecting them and trying them out.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. I didn't take a picture of all the hook knives that he had, but it's a great opportunity to actually shop and try them all. Some were from private makers in Los Angeles that I hadn't heard of that are apparently available on the market. And some of them are mimicking Native American style, where they're flat on the back. And one of them was just particularly elegant. But it's a nice opportunity to try this out. You can't do that at a store.
What would you recommend for a knife, and what would you recommend for a hook knife? Either by brand or size or anything, your personal preference.
Okay, when I worked at Woodcraft, I always went to the detail flex cut, which is about an 1.25 inch blade, and it comes down to a nice tip, so you can do some detail work with that. So the reason I like that knife is it comes sharp. There's all kinds of knives you can get. If you look on the YouTube, you'll see them using a Sloyd knife, which has got a 3 or 4 5-inch blade, and for beginners, I don't think so. Yeah. So and then if they want to do a hook, they can either do a hook knife, and there's all kinds of ranges from 30 to the first one I got, the flex cut. I think it's about $90 now. But it's basically a Sloyd knife that they've curved, but it's very heavy duty, and I liked it a lot. I like it a lot. And so there's a wide range of things. So I let people try things and see what they like. And I have several spoon gouges, and that, of course, Field makes a very nice palm gouge, which is the first tool that I use to make a spoon. So I like those a lot. But there's, Beavercraft makes them, shaft tools, make pretty decent stuff. I like it. So I have some of those, all these tools. So I keep collecting these things.
Yeah, for those of you in the Portland area, the carving SIG has been meeting March, April, and May on spoons and kitchen utensils. So we got a couple more meetings to go. The one at Rockler is the first Wednesday of the month. We've got 2 under our belt. We'll do a third one on the first Wednesday in May, and then the one at the Guild of Oregon Woodworkers is the third Thursday. And we still have those coming up. Clark Moss has organized some green birch. We got basswood, of course. We got some butternut, and we got a variety of tools to play around with. This is Al's one of the projects, kind of, I would call it an intermediate level of complexity that he did. He's got a bunch of other patterns. One of them is right out of the Beavercraft spoon carving kit. And I bought one of those a couple of days before I came here. I'll have that at the Guild Studio, and I'll have it at the Rockler meeting. It's a Celtic, relatively complex Celtic pattern. That's got an arch to the handle and a lot of little teeny spaces. This is the article that he uses. I couldn't find the actual source, although the creator of this design was identified as Vern Weber. And then I listed all this will be posted online. So there's a website here, a link to Etsy that has got absolutely fabulous Celtic style spoons. So if you're into this style of patterns, decorative, non-functional kind of things, it's really mind-boggling. People can spend the rest of their lives doing this. This featured carver, I'm switching gears. Vic, I don't know Vic Hood. He's an interesting guy. These are some of the examples of I would call it more monumental big pieces that he does. We talked about the Burke sharpening system. It was created by John Burke in Nebraska quite a long time ago, 30 years ago or more. And our focus on power sharpening with Dave Dignam out of California had the Burke system, and it was dedicated to the Burke system. Well, this guy, Vic Hood, cut his teeth being an assistant and a helper for John Burke for 7 years. John apparently was a quite well-known carver of Native American Indian heads and traveled around the country and taught. And so Vic Hood would travel with him, but he also spent time in the shop, in the factory in Nebraska. And we have on this call tonight, I'm pretty sure, is Ken Means. And Ken also lives part-time in Oregon and part-time in Franklin, Tennessee, and they know each other. And so we probably won't have a chance to interact, Ken. But Ken Means was noted before in earlier meetings as a master carver of large numbers of carousel animals. So these guys, in my mind, are in a class by themselves. This is John Burke. He hauled a trailer 3 days from Tennessee, stormy weather with all this news that was coming out. I'll show more details. This is his carving station. I'll show a more detailed picture, but it's a pretty typical, watch what he does for a while and you go work on it. You go back to your site and just kind of rotate back and forth. Some details of the pieces that he's done. And these are large pieces. What's also interesting, his wife was along and was dusting and oiling the pieces, refreshing them. And she had Howard's Feed and Wax, which is exactly the same stuff that Masa Natani uses on coating all of his carvings, including the bears that he has. And so that's what they do. That's what Vic's go-to is on this material, on his carvings. This is just a real short clip. You notice the cameras, one on the left and one up kind of toward the top right. People were videotaping what he was demonstrating on his little snippets. And then they would go back and do it, and that became their memory.
People often ask me, why are you using a wide tool when you're only taking part. Well, as I go across, what happens, it helps me to keep that plane even. I'm just doing a part of it as I go across. I can keep that whole plane very even.
What was interesting talking to the organizer of this show, they had only 2 people committed to take his class. And this guy said, I'm coming no matter what. If there's even only one person, I'm coming. But prior to him coming, they only had 2. When people saw what he was doing, 5 more people signed up. They were so impressed with that opportunity to have a master carver amongst them. This is the setup that he had. So he's standing on the right-hand side, he's standing up instead of sitting down. But when I say cheek to jowl, these are the serious carvers. They all had some kind of a table, kind of a TV tray table, or some other kind of a mechanism to hold all their tools. None of them were power carving. They were all doing this by hand. Some were standing, some were sitting. There was one woman, I think there's one woman out of this group. She was on the side outside this picture. This is his stand. It's really self-contained, pretty amazing. You notice he was sitting down. So he's obviously got, I don't see a caliper, but I think he's got a caliper around. He's got a mallet stand on the foreground here. And then the articulated ball mount. I don't know if that's custom or purchase. It looks custom. It's a big ball with some angle, with some levers that are holding it in place. So he can rotate that thing around. This is Monday, Tuesday. This is the end of day 2 of his carving, kind of where he was at. The beard looks like it might be a flaw in the wood. I don't know. It's all butternut. He roughs out the butternut blank, and I think the class was $400 plus $65 for the chunk of wood, roughed out and sawn out, kind of blocked out. He does a lot of mountain men kind of things. This is a close-up of the mechanism that each of the students had, and you can see in the background there's kind of a round stand, and they got to be heavy. They're sturdy. You're taking a lot of abuse. So you notice everybody was in the one room, right? There was the power carvers were in another room and across the outside, but there was a fair amount of background noise. I took this class from Daryl Easter. I knew of Daryl, not much, but I knew a little bit about him. I got to know him quite well during this trip. Our club inherited the otter carving project from the Ventura Club. We also, some of us are attempting the mouse, which is the second project that the Ventura Club does. And Daryl has a number of YouTube videos, one on carving the otter. So people who take the introduction class on whittling and don't finish it will get a link to Daryl's demonstration of carving the otter. On YouTube, I listed, if you search for Daryl Easter art, you'll be able to see that. I got a video clip of him. Amazing guy, 83 years old, still going strong. Got into carving about 25 years ago, but he was a surfer and he still surfs. It's like pretty amazing. And he paints and he carves, but his carving is his first love. This is a short interview. So I'm a Daryl Easter. We're at Oakhurst on August 8th or 9th on 2025. And
yeah, my name is Daryl Easter.
I'm butchering my,
I'm a wood carving teacher.
Yeah.
And this is what we're carving.
Yeah. Did you invent this?
It's a dream catcher.
Yeah, this your design?
Yeah, I designed it 20 years ago, and I did bring the first one, the only one I carved for 20 years, and then I thought that would make a good lesson, so I drew out patterns using the original for ideas, and that's how it came about.
How long does it take you to bandsaw it, scroll saw it out to make each one of these blanks?
I did do a time study so I could find out how much to charge, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the scroll sawing was the hardest part. And I would set a goal of doing one a day, and I'd usually do more, 2 or 3 a day, on the scroll saw. The band sawing was easier, and I ended up making 20. And the bandsaw, I would do maybe 10 of them at a time. And then the drilling also was a separate step.
Yeah, takes time.
I don't know how long it was all in all. I did know it originally, but I don't know.
How long have you been carving?
I've been carving probably 25 years.
How did you get into it?
I got interested in automatas and wind. what are they called?
Whirly jig kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Wind-driven
whirly gigs.
animation kind of stuff?
Yeah, weather vanes and whirly gigs.
Yeah.
And I made a couple, and then I went into woodcraft. And our president of our club, Al Plash, was working. And I said I wanted to take a carving lesson at woodcraft. And he says, no, don't do that. Come to our club. So I agreed to come to the club. And I said, let me show you some carvings. So I brought in some of my carvings, and he looked at it and he said, oh gosh, you don't need to take our beginner lesson. You need to teach. I said, no, I don't teach. I can just take your lessons. So, and I did. I carved an otter and I carved a mouse. And then I didn't start teaching until I came here quite a long time ago. I don't know how long. But the first 2 times I just took classes, and I carved so fast that I got bored. And I said, this is boring. I need to maybe teach a class. And then I found out you don't need to pay to come if you teach. So anyways, that helps get me to come. And so that's how that started.
Yeah. So you're a carver, but you said you were a surfer in the early days.
Yeah.
Right? So was you
I still
a beach
surf.
bum, or how was it?
Beach bum, yeah. That's a whole new story. But yeah, I still surf a little bit. I'm 83 years old.
Oh.
So sometimes the guys let the old man have a wave. And I've always been a woodworker. I grew up working wood, even as a little guy. I built train layouts, and when I was a teenager, I built a racing hydroplane with my mom's help. And I took wood shop every semester, and ended up loving wood. My dad was a mechanic, so I didn't want to be a mechanic because I don't like getting that dirty.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in San Fernando Valley. It was Sherman Oaks. Went to Van Nuys High School.
Someone said you're a painter now also.
Yeah,
Is that
I'm a
right?
watercolor
Watercolor? Is
painter.
that new, or is that a long time?
It's pretty new. There's a story behind that. So
painting on carvings is easy for you.
Yeah.
Now,
And
so that's
I use watercolor on all my paintings, which is And then I do flat plane carving, and I watercolor it, and then I flap sand it so you can see all the facets in the carving. So
you got quite a few things on YouTube. Is that
yeah,
recall, right?
I do. If anybody wants to see my YouTubes, it's Daryl Easter's Art. And I have both carving and painting. And there's some pictures of me surfing.
Okay.
There's some of my old Woody station wagon. And I used to do it quite a bit. And I liked it. It was like a special project to edit and make those things. And I had fun doing it. And then it's a sad story. My last video, I used to have a kitty that would sit on my lap, and I'd carve and get chips all over him, and he thought I was petting him, but I was just brushing off the chips. And so he finally passed away, and then I lost heart because I'd cry. And so I quit making them, and then just maybe a year ago I thought I should do that again. but all of my GoPro and everything is so outdated, I couldn't get it to link up, and they wanted to charge me money to link it up, and so I haven't done any. But they're still up. They're still there.
And you would edit your own videos?
Yeah, I edited them.
What'd you use software-wise? Do you remember?
It was part of the computer program.
Okay.
I use a Mac, so it was iMovie. I think edited them through there.
Yeah.
Added sounds, and I don't talk well in front of a camera, and so
Most
I
people don't. By the
I
way.
voice overed all of the videos, so that way I could, if I didn't like it, I could erase it and do it again. So that's how I did.
Yeah.
A lot of people would complain about the videos because back when I was making them, they only allowed you 10 minutes for the video, and so I had to squeeze the whole class into 10 minutes, and that was kind of hard. So I sped up the footage. Some people didn't like that. I love it because my eye hand, I see it,
Yeah.
no matter how fast it goes.
Yeah.
But a lot of people want it going slow so they can follow along. I'd get anti-speed comments.
Different topic on your sharpener. Did you create that out of scratch? Did you invent that idea? Of
The one up on the stage?
The drill-based thing. I took a lot of pictures. And I
Yeah,
have that.
actually, I bought the leather wheels from Woodcraft, and they need to go both directions. So I got a reversible Harbor Freight drill, and I just put it on there, and I mounted it on a wooden stand, so it holds it up. And it does really good for stropping, but they need to be stone sharpened, and my knives are always so nicely sharpened. I don't need to stone them very much, but when I try to sharpen other people's knives, they're so dull that you really need to put a lot of work in grinding them down proper.
Did you evolve that 25 years ago or recently? How long?
Yeah, a long time. In fact, I have a video that shows me sharpening. I made it years ago, so I don't know how current it is.
Is it on YouTube, do you think?
Yeah, it's
or-
on YouTube.
I'll look it up.
Yeah,
To me, that's a very clever system.
yeah.
We got every sharpening system known to man, but they are expensive for newcomers. They are not very versatile
Yeah.
and not very portable. And
These you do have to reverse them for your carving knives. The gouges can go one direction, but the first time I had it, I made my own flat leather. It was on a sanding disc. It was about 4 inches, 5 inches, and I brought it here, and people would run it the wrong direction, and then the knife would cut into it and make all these radical noises. But this one, people don't seem to go up there too much to.
would you change this in any way, knowing what you know now?
No. I have a work sharp that I use for fine tuning some of my gouges and stuff. I'd like to have a work sharp that went backwards, because it'll only goes one direction.
Yeah. They stopped making that. They got out of that business
Oh, really?
about 2 years ago.
Didn't know that. I have some guys that know a lot of electronics, and I was thinking I should try and get them to put a reverse switch on it, because it would be nice.
What's the most complex carving you've done?
I'd have to show you pictures.
Okay.
The hardest one, I've done a lot that were really hard. The hardest one was a cross that was all, it's hard to describe, but it had a heart in the middle that was loose, and it was extremely delicate. I only made one for a lady that was into crosses, and she was a very good carver and carved it, but I won't do a lesson on it because the dream catcher is hard enough. People break them, and that heart, and that was probably the hardest one. I did a whittling contest once that was for a Halloween caricature, and I did a 4 or 5 foot skeleton that had loose ribs and so you could see through him. And I hung a little heart inside of his rib cage. He was kind of hard, and there's a video on that. That's
So
in
4 to 5 inches kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did make a video on it
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yeah. Is the otter your design, or did you inherit that?
The otter?
Yeah.
No, there's a YouTube on the otter, but that was the first carving that I ever did
Okay.
in the club.
Who created that? Do you know? 'Cause we use that in our club.
Yeah, I
Also.
don't know. And a lot of people don't realize that the otter is really supposed to be a letter opener. And so the tail needs to be really flat and sharp on the edges, and then you can use it for a letter opener. I looked it up, and there's a lot of things about the otter. But yeah, it's been around for a long time,
Yeah.
longer than I have.
And what about the mouse? Is that inherited too?
Yeah, I don't know anything about either one of them.
Yeah. 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 That's right. I'm done.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you very much. You get back to work, right?
He's really a character. He admitted he doesn't read. He really struggled to get through high school. He loved shop. He aced all the wood shop classes and you know kind of worked really hard to get through all the other classes. But he's an unbelievably creative guy. I'm going to show you some pictures. He had a series of things you could do. These are the bottom row is the finished product, and the model, the rough out is above that. I'm not sure anybody was doing those. What I didn't show is he's got a 3-ring Mobius ring thing that was unbelievably complex. I mean, it's like, I think maybe one guy in the class was doing that. I tackled this dream catcher. So the rough out is on the right, and the go by is on the left. And he really did a great job of painting that. The 3 feathers are all loose, so it's like ball and chain kind of thing. The grain is running top to bottom, and there's a little hook on the top that's also has to be cut loose. And super glue is your friend. So it didn't take long for me to break out the top piece. I got the 2 feathers off this morning. The hard one is the one in the middle, and I'll tackle that tomorrow. The middle part is actually very, very thin. It's probably 1/8 of an inch thick. And all of the other patterns are basically you're carving leather kind of things holding these 3 rings together. It's really quite amazing. He had variations of this. On one of them, he had a small little block of wood with a woman sleeping on a pillow dreaming. And so that was the dream catcher connection. What you don't see very well on the left picture, there's a little flower on the left side of the dream catcher. You'll see it on the pattern on the right. The thing is there. There's quite a bit. There's a lot going on. Everybody was struggling with that, but it's considered an intermediate project. And you see all the drills in the center part. So he was scroll sawing out the first inner ring. Those are all scroll sawed out, but then the inner circle is all black ink, and that's those are drilled out, and then you have to carve them out. They're gonna break, right? I mean, they're just cross grain. This is a detail of what that looks like as you close it up. I gotta leave early. I gotta come back on Thursday. It'll probably be a third done, be my guess. He also had a series of hobo art things that he just like popped in today. One of his former carvers from Ventura moved to Arkansas, and he said, "Hey, can you show us how to do the hobo art things?" So he had this pattern that kind of looked like an ornament. He had, sorry for the fuzziness, this is a cube with these things in the middle. It's kind of like, how in the world do you do that? Right? How do you get that inner piece? This is yet a standalone version of the part that's in that inner cube. I didn't take any, I got more pictures, which I didn't include here, but he's using 1/4 inch square stock bought from the store. And he's got a little Japanese saw that's cutting them up into lengths. And then he's notching them. You can see in this interlock, each of the pieces is sawn halfway down with a little jig. And everything is a 1/4 inch spacing so that it all will interlock together. And then they carve out the mortise basically, or the groove, so this all fits. One of these pieces becomes the key piece. And the key piece has got a bevel on it, and it's squeezed down, let's say in the example in this picture, squeezed down between the top two parts at a 90 degrees and then twisted and snapped into place. And I finally had to ask, how do they get that inside? Well, they assemble it, but one piece actually, one end of the key piece is actually cut off, squeezed in, and then glued back on. So if you look at the pieces, you'll see how that works. I was really intrigued by this sharpening system. We spent a lot of time in the carving SIGs looking at sharpeners, and we did a specific focus on using, we looked at the work sharp, but we also, Russ Lawrence and Roger Crooks looked at adopting a mini potter's wheel for making a stropping system. But this little stand is everything you need in one power drill. And but if you notice it, there's a Sharpie stuck in the top block. There's a magnifier on the left-hand side. There's a little tray that comes out of a Dremel kit that's got three different grits on it. So it's got green, yellow, and white. So green being really fine, but still being the coarser of the three. And then in the last little tray, he's got a 15-degree and a 20-degree little block that he can use to kind of, I guess, set up the angles, and a test block of wood on the right. What I didn't know at the beginning is that this drill is setting in a stand. It just lifts out. It's an angled block of wood, so it's pressure fit in there, and obviously we're running vertically. This is the key mechanism. This is that angled piece of leather that he said he bought at Woodcrafts, and I haven't had time to go look to see if they still sell it. I think they do. I think this is kind of standard things. And then he's got this buffing wheel underneath it. And what's interesting is that he's sharpening the knives on the edge. He's stropping the edges of the knives on the edge of this disc. The gouges themselves are on the top of that wheel. So there's a small groove that gets fit into in the top of it, and he's just got a bolt as a hinge going, a pin going into the drill itself. I got some more pictures for anybody who wants, but I really want to pursue this. And my sense is that using a battery drilled in today's technology would really be the way to go. What's not obvious here is that it's this ported drill from Harbor Freight. That red switch behind the trigger is the forward reverse. So that's where he's getting forward and reverse. And on the side of the handle, there's a lock. So you squeeze the trigger, lock it in, and it runs by itself. So you don't have to clamp it shut. I asked a couple other people if in the Ventura Club where he belongs, he brings it whenever he teaches. And it seems to be that people don't use it. He uses it, but it seems to me it's from an economical getting started viewpoint, it really has an advantage. He emphasized he uses stones as well. This is the relief carving class. So these sets of tables and all those chairs are everybody carving. This is the setup before the class actually started. I just wanted to show the density of it. Almost everybody in the relief class was carving these live edge basswood frames, choosing patterns that they had by themselves. This picture I liked because the woman who is carving has got a carving board with pegs in it. And there are variations of this, but she was the only one in the whole show that had a version of a carving hook that had pre-drilled spacings, sort of like a festool operation. This is a more classic bench hook, but what was intriguing about this is that light on it turns out to be a Harbor Freight battery operated light. And it's got two pieces of metal on either corner of the bench hook and a magnet base. And so that's a version of a way of getting light. We have one of those. The club has one of those that we use on the Drake sharpening system that we have. I bought it maybe 4 years ago when 5 years ago when Chuck was teaching. It's been a little flaky. I don't particularly like it. Yeah, it's not gooseneck, so you can't quite move it around to where you want to do it. But from a portability viewpoint, to get some light into a poorly lit space, I thought that was pretty interesting. Roman Chernikov is in San Jose. He's a member of our club, the Oregon Carvers Guild. He attends almost every Monday morning carving conversation that we have, and they're open conversation. Anybody can join. Just let me know, and I'll send you a tickler. It's almost always Roman and me and Tom Rich and Tom Sipe and Ray Curtis, and less often, but frequently, other people would join, including Al Plash from Ventura. It's a coffee hour. It's unstructured. We talk about a wide variety of things. Roman particularly likes chip carving, and he became a sponsor of the Oregon Carvers Guild, and we really appreciate that. He has a website called readandtry.com, and he's developing patterns for chip carving, for learning about chip carving, for all kinds of things. He's holding one example up, but he carries around this tray of examples that he uses, and they're really cute. They're clever. They're practical. On the lower foreground is the back of a strop that he uses, and he's got this chip carving tree pattern that he uses, and he uses that pattern in a number of other places. He's also a woodturner, he's a software engineer. He's very talented. He's got one of everything. He's got laser cutters and 3D printers, and he does websites, and it's quite a remarkable individual. And he's going to help the California Carvers Guild, and he's helping other clubs, but also the California Carvers Guild evolve their websites and get out of the Stone Age more into the Bronze Age kind of thing. I met this guy, Phil, and I use this as an example as a cane, not because of the cane head. It's just one of many possible heads. This is a lot of people that walk. It's really a walking stick, but it's a walking stick head. Instead of using a wooden walking stick that's got fixed length, he uses a metal, aluminum, adjustable height, like a tripod leg, which has got a threaded head on it, and he drove a threaded insert into a block of wood and carved his own head. And walking sticks are, I think, really interesting because they're useful. They keep balance, but from people that need them, they really need the work. And if you travel with them, you need to have them collapsible. And to me, this is a getting started way of getting involved with walking sticks by going to Goodwill and getting one, that probably, I see them all over the place, taking off whatever is there. Usually it's a handle that's 90 degrees, there's something you have to grab. But having a round object was described by another walking stick carver and cane carver as being so easy to grip that it becomes safe. Let's see if I lost it. No. There's another carver. This is automata. So this is a mouse. It's a poor picture of a mouse. You crank the handle on the right-hand side, it turns an axle that turns some other kinds of dowels on the inside. And it's a cam which articulates the mouse movement up and down on a piece of cheese. And this is, I forgot his name, demonstrating sort of how the mechanism.
Drill, I have a drill, but you want to make sure this works because before you do it, and this one needs some sanding. You see this little piece up here? See how it's going? It's when it goes.
And I'm intrigued with this because Automata I want to do a monthly program on that. I'd love to do a class on it. Scott Lang, who's the president of the Central Coast Woodcarvers in Morro Bay, California, does Automata. He did a class for his own, the local club there. I'm pretty sure he'll be able to teach one for us on Zoom on a remote basis. And there's Automata magazines, and this stuff goes crazy. You can spend your whole life doing nothing but moving things that move and crank. Tom Rich made one, I think 2 years ago, didn't you, Tom, for the gathering of the guilds, and had it there. And that's intriguing stuff. It's just it moves. It's not just static. Gary Hensley is the president of the California Carvers Guild, current president of the Ventura Club. Was teaching a class on bark carving. So people who had never experienced bark carving could do that with Gary. What's interesting about Gary is he's got a full woodworking shop and he's legally blind. So he does a lot of stuff with a handicap in his later life that is pretty amazing. He's doing a marvelous job with the California Carvers Guild. I just spotted this chest. There's a lot of people haul their stuff around in a variety of ways. So, people in this group that are doing woodworking, will recognize I think that's finger joints as opposed to dovetail. I couldn't quite see, but it's kind of reminiscent of a Chuck Reinhardt's fancy carving tool chest with a beefy handle on the side. I don't know for sure if the pieces on the side are notched for gripping on the side, or I can't tell. I didn't pay attention to that, but I was intrigued with that. There's a lady doing what she called hanging birds, and they're long. They're resting on a dowel. You can see on the lower right-hand side the notches that are resting on a dowel. I'm guessing it's a 3/16-inch dowel-ish kind of thing. And they're carving birds. This is one profile of it. And then she had a training pattern where it's half carved on one side and roughed out on the other side. So you can use that as a go-by and as a training aid. And they're cute. It's just another one of these simple projects that can be cranked out in a relatively short amount of time that have some appeal to that. I didn't talk to this guy. He was carving golf balls. He cut off the top half of a golf ball. And that box in the back are all variations of that. And Tony Rizzuto in our club is a master at this. He just loves carving golf balls. And there are some others in our club that do it. The foreground picture is not a golf ball. Those are softballs. And they're actually cutting off this outer skin of a softball. And I never knew what a softball looked like on the inside. But apparently it's obviously a bigger object, and you can get things there as well. And what's interesting to me is that we can carve other things besides wood. Most of us carve wood. But we can carve ice and we carve stones, and you'll see gourds at the end. One of the carvers from Ventura is a woman named Evie, and she gave me some pictures of stuff that she didn't have at the show, but that she was the one in the picture with the automata. Couldn't believe the number of people creating stepping stones. It's stained glass, chipped up. I assume it's glass. I don't know that. Maybe acrylic, but they were cutting off the patterns and making really creative, gluing them down to stepping stones, and then they were later on would fill them in and mortise them together, caulk them together. The same lady that talked the hanging birds had these projects that you could select from, small little animals. and the ones on the bottom look like mice kind of leaning over an edge um, as projects. So the kind of the model is you could take 5-day class in relief carving and you might get done, or take 4 or 5 days of a dream catcher and you might get done, but you could also do a sampler here and a sampler there and do these in a half a day and go on and catch a wide variety of things. She also did what I call big back scratchers. This sticks of wood that's got some arch to them and some pointy end that's going to grab a spot that you really care about. There's also a group of maybe half a dozen people making a dulcimer. And so I don't know exactly how they did it. You can see in the right-hand picture, it was the board had been cut and split and bent and was now being prepared for the frame. The one on the left, the back is being glued on, or the front is being glued on with that frame. This woman on the right is Lola. I forgot her last name. She's really a master carver. She's really, really good at mammal carving. I talked to her a bit at the beginning, and she does mammals. I mean, she really, really does lots and lots of mammals. And she has in her hand the fox that's being carved. And this is not her station. This is a carving station that somebody brought in. They're using a Grizzly dual fan um, dust collection system. A lot of them are using Dremels. Some are corded, some are not. What's on the top of this one, she had a very interesting battery-operated LED light that illuminated the fox. So as she was carving, she could see what she was doing, and some of it by hand, but most of it by power. Another guy was doing this fall leather book covers. He basically taking blocks of wood and carving them, and so he uh, uses a table saw to saw off the back spline. And then he's got the three edges are using a 3/32 thick table saw blade on a small little portable table saw with varying the height. So he will set the spacing and cut out the three sides at one depth for the inside and outside. So he'll reverse it. Then he'll change the depth and create a kind of an old book, inconsistent depth of it. And then eventually they'll glue back the cover. And
How
then
you get them the grain aligned.
the back. So he's carving walnut mostly, and then lettering and painting the leather with a gold colored paint. But he's stippling like mad. He's using a dental bit that's less than 3/32. It looks like almost a 1/32 inch diameter thing in a collet that is in a micromotor system, and just hand stippling the entire book, putting some gouges in it, dyeing it to make it look antique. And it's so real that people are, when he enters these in art shows, they it's like you can't believe you're putting a piece of paper in a show. And you can letter anything you want. You can put a Bible on it, a Book of Mormon. One of the women had a book of spells. She had a daughter that was having a birthday and she was into spells. And so she was creating her own title. You could make it, the Steve Moore autobiography, My Life. This Evie is the one that I mentioned from the tour. She was a gourd. She carves, but she also carves gourds, and she loves painting and she loves sculpture. And I'm blown away by gourd art. And the Idaho group that does their annual show in Boise is co-sponsored by the wood world, the wood turners and the wood carvers and the woodworkers and the Gourd Society. And there are gourd societies in a lot of states, but not Oregon, is from what I can tell. But there are still gourd carvers. Most of them are buying gourds of various shapes and sizes from Southern California, from the San Diego area. And I got a whole 50-minute video. I interviewed her because I like to do a program on gourds as well and engage some other people. But the gourds themselves, it's another piece of raw material. It's about 3/8 of an inch thick, got a very hard shell. It's you buy them dry, they're not very expensive. They're $5 to $15 each. They come in all different shapes and sizes. You can cut them off, cut them out, and create a wide variety of things. This woman particularly likes to sculpt, so she takes bits and pieces of different gourds and creates architecture. So this is, call home, right? So this is a pierced carving. This is zoomed in of a kind of a vase kind of a thing where she carved relief carving all the way through and bits and pieces of it. I don't know how she did this. It looks like a mushroom glued on to a rope thing centered around the top of it, laced in and drilled. There's the Central Coast Woodcarvers Club, where I mentioned Scott Lang. I belong to that one. So does Al Lang, and so does Gary Hensley. And they have 91-year-old gourd carver who's there, Dot Rig, who is just a master. And they just, it's so creative. And it's wood burned, and it's carved, and it's painted, and it's functional, and it's art, and it's multidimensional. So this would be an example of a lot of drilling, right? You can see how all that's, I can't imagine it's hand carved. But some of these, she described using a very thin X-Acto knife to cut off the lid so that it fits as if it's like a perfect match, and yet it will lift off. And that's the end of the show. The other thing, that the guy next to me was in a walker, and very interesting Army veteran. And he said, I'll cut myself 20 times this week. And he had a whole thing of Band-Aids. I mean, he was just ready to go. But he said, here's my first aid kit. I use pepper. When I cut myself, I put pepper on my wound, and it stops the bleeding. I said, oh, come on, you're just an old guy, right? Well, it turns out I asked around, and apparently I asked Daryl Easter about that, and he carries pepper, and his kit, he's got a set of pepper. He just dumps it on the wound, and if he gets a deep cut, he just opens it up and pours it in. He said it doesn't hurt, then it dries it up, stops the bleeding. So I don't know if it's a good idea, a bad idea. I've got a friend of the family's who's a PhD nurse, and I texted her today and asked her, what do you think about this idea? She said, well, it's common in rural areas, but I would save it for vegetables instead of skin, was her take. But she was dealing with more open things. If anybody has any experience with this, let me know. I'm kind of curious about whether this is one of these, 1960s, 70s kind of back to Mother Earth kind of things, or whether it's a thing. But it also might be, a go-to for if you run out of stuff, right? Daryl just pours it on, he said, and he collects little pieces, little packets, and they are reasonably sterile. And they pour fast. He likes the fine grain. He likes fine pepper instead of coarse pepper, and wraps it up, and there he goes from there. Okay, well, that's my trip report, folks. That's 2 days out of 5 of like, okay, this is what I learned in school today, and I got a couple more days to go. But I would encourage you, if you haven't been to a Rendezvous, it's a little bit far to come to Yosemite, but not that bad, right? It's a good family vacation. But Silverton, for those of us living in the metro area, isn't that far. And rendezvous are happening all over the place. Probably in the Northwest, the big granddaddy of them all is the Ellensburg Northwest Carving Academy in early July. And that's got it really highly rated. It's a little bit different than a rendezvous in the sense that you pay instructors money to go. In this case, you pay one fee, $150, and you get to take anything you want, except for the Vic Hood premium class kind of a thing. And the instructors are not paid. They're all volunteers. Um, and so that's a bit of a difference. But the density of these experiences is really amazing. And I could spend all my time not carving and just talking to various people. And yeah, lots of conversations on a wide variety of topics about carving and non-carving and sharpening systems, and then it goes on. Okay, any questions? Please ask questions.
Larry, Steve Moore, when is the Silverton rendezvous?
I don't remember the dates. It's always in September. It's always after Labor Day. It's usually around the middle of the month. And it'll be in the newsletter, Steve. In the
Okay.
back of our monthly newsletter, we always list everything that's coming up. And as soon as we know the dates, we put them in. And as we get reasonably close to them, we try to give more publicity to them. You know, we are we represent mostly the Portland area.
Right.
But we have people joining these Zoom calls and involved with us and getting the newsletter that are all over the place. You know, we have, of our 110 members, 25% of them are outside of the Portland metro area.
Good.
Dozen in California and some in Central Oregon. So we appreciate, we have a reach with the technology that we otherwise can't do.
Okay, thanks.
We also have the gathering of the guilds coming up. So that's April 25th, 6th, and 7th, and I put out a plea to, I think, hopefully everybody, but I need some help to get volunteers to staff in the booth. The Guild of Oregon Woodworkers is doing the same. We're part of the Wood Collective. All the demo slots we need are all filled up. So thanks to everybody that is doing that. But we still have booth volunteers that we need help with, and that's on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3-hour shift. It's a great show. You meet a lot of people and see what's going on. We will have a big focus on comfort birds again because they're good, they're nice priced, and they're beautiful objects. And it's not only birds. So sometimes we have turtles and other things that other people are carving. But last summer we were donated about 50. Yeah, there's Tom's turtles. Tom's been cranking. So Tom, I'll spotlight you. Hold it up again. There we go. Tom's the master with the turtles. Yeah. And our newsletter editor, Tom Sipe, is cranking out a whole bunch of stuff, but he's got sockets for everything he carves on the coast where he lives and hangs out. But we were given 50 walking canes that were in the guy's garage for 25 years, carved by the partner of his mother. This guy carved canes and gave them away, and then he died, and she died. And so he ended up with this stuff and didn't know what to do with it. I said, we'll find good homes for him. So we've been giving them away, and they're diamond willow. Half of them are diamond willow. They're quite nice canes. So we'll price them really, really well, and we'll move them out so they don't. Yeah, there's Ray. Ray had pick of the litter. There we go, Ray. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, some of them are thicker and thinner. That's a beautiful one. Yeah. And the handle is pretty typical of what these canes were like. He spent time stripping the bark and using the natural beauty of the material themselves. Masa will have about half a dozen things for sale. He's been doing some sushi boards, beautiful walnut. I mean, he does such elegant, simple work in Japanese style. And then he pattern carves some of the design on the inside. And he'll have a couple of bowls, I think, as well. And then Clark Moth will have some of his spoons there as well. And maybe others that will come out of the woodwork as I get myself organized after this show. That's coming up pretty soon. We've also picked the date of our summer picnic. It's always been a lot of fun. It'll be the last Saturday in July, July 26th, and Julie Niemeyer and her husband Gordy have offered to host us at their site on Cooper Mountain in South Beaverton. And it's a wonderful site and a shop that's right out of Architectural Digest. It's just a wonderful place to visit, and it's a good time to meet a whole lot of people. We do a lot of things on Zoom. We obviously do some classes and we have meetings, but it's also a good chance to get together. Okay. Any questions, any comments, anything for the good?
Well, Larry, thanks for pulling this together and interviewing some very interesting people at that rendezvous.
Tons of interesting people.
Yeah.
My next, we'll get up, it should all work out. I'll get to see I'll get to see Lonnie Accord up in central Washington. And that'll be the main focus for Native American carving, because he's been carving Native American masks for 40 years. And he was prominent at the Coastal Carver Show in January, and he agreed to be interviewed. But he doesn't have internet and he doesn't do email. So I'll trek up and I'll interview him, and we'll do, that should all work out. But there are other Native American resources around too that I'd like to feather in. Lots to talk about. Okay. So sorry for being long-winded. Sorry I couldn't have other people live here, but I think it worked out reasonably well. And
Yeah.
it's
Yes.
rendezvous. Rendezvous are great, full of ideas. Good night, everybody.
Thanks again, Larry. Take care.
Bye.